previous years.
Which I think throws up even more surprise that listening to the commentary that and reading between the lines some of the analysis of the game was that Chelsea did really well. They lost 3-0. Courtois had a nightmare. Christensen nodded one down for Fabregas. He had a nightmare, gave it away. They had a few chances. But I think there's a real ignorance here, particularly from England, or from that side of the pond into what Barcelona have been all about this season. There's plenty of sides in Spain who are worse off than Chelsea, have given Barcelona a game in the possession stakes this year and have been beaten. This is what they do. They sucker teams in and they hit them on the counter. Not all the time, but a lot of the times. And that's a big difference in strategy from what they were all about under Pep and under Luis Enrique. But that's what they do. And it seems it took Chelsea by surprise. And it took quite a lot of the pundits by surprise as well. Clearly, they're only watching the Premier League.
Well, this is it. No, it's obviously something we've discussed a lot, isn't it? And the fact that Valverde's come in and the blueprint has changed, but it is effective.
It's a different version of Barcelona, and people just have to get used to it. All right, got to get past it. No, Xavi's not out there, okay? So forget it. That's not the way that Barcelona is playing, not under Ernesto Valverde. Now, the truth of the matter is that what he has provided with this team is balance. Today, we want a 4-4-2. Look, we're going to put numbers behind the ball. Chelsea is going to have to attack us at some point, and when they do that, we're going to force them into areas where we can turn the ball over. And from there, we're going to go on the counter because, oh, by the way, we have the best player in the world who can then run that counter, make the decision, score the goals, and that's it. It's all game over. It's very practical the way that they're playing. It's not beautiful at times. It's pragmatic. And that's not what Barcelona has us used to doing, but the truth is, we're talking about Barcelona as if they didn't play well, and they won 3-0. They won 3-0 in a Champions League game against Chelsea. Okay, see you guys later.
I think it's funny that Mourinho at the weekend said that you can be in control without having the ball. That's kind of what it felt like tonight. As much as Chelsea had the ball, I just never felt they were going to get in the game. And of course, instead of Barcelona having 70% of the ball and playing the game within a 30-yard space going forward, Messi's got more time and space now because they're winning the ball back, 40 yards for goal? I mean, it's incredible.
A word on Messi, of course, a brace. Courtois will be having nightmares about both of those goals.
Well, has he scored against Courtois before? Because you know he gets very nervous about these things. Who he's scored against.
If you pick Messi up and put him in any of the remaining sides, do they automatically become favourites? Well, does he make that much of a difference?
Not if you put him in the Sevilla or Roma side.
No.
No. I mean, yeah, probably with the top teams, yeah. Absolutely. When you put him in Man City, dare I say, you put him in Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, he's just, I mean, look, I can't.
If you put
it's pointless me saying he's a game changer. He's just absolutely, it's just incredible. I mean,
if you put him in Liverpool's team and Lovren still plays, still
can you play him at centre-back?
Yeah, that help? That's an absolute Tesla.
If Barcelona go on and win this competition, it's an obvious statement, and we saw it a bit from Ronaldo last year. It's because of Messi, isn't it?
Well, of course it is. And all things being equal, let's say that the top-tier teams that are involved in this competition, left in this competition with Bayern Munich or Manchester City, Barcelona, Real Madrid, so on and so forth. Let's say that they walk on the field and everything is the same about them. The one difference between all of those is who has Lionel Messi. And so on a day, who do you want with the ball in a moment of importance? In a moment where you need to define something. You could say Cristiano Ronaldo. I still would prefer Lionel Messi. Because I think that he will be the guy that will sort things out for me. Still the best in the world.
They can obviously win it, yeah? Barca, are they favourites?
Absolutely. Just because they're, I mean, I never thought they would be as pragmatic and such a big change, but it's working for them. Still unbeaten in, domestically in La Liga. Still getting great results here. I mean, it's hugely more efficient than it's been. I mean...
Actually, I said something during the game. We were sitting watching the game, and I said, you know what? Can you imagine what it's going to be like if Barcelona get out of second gear?
Right.
And some of the guys are going, well, hold on a minute. They're actually winning time after time, being in second gear. Do they actually have another gear? I mean, are they going to turn around? Because since the season began in La Liga, all the way through Champions League, right to now, they've done exactly the same. So, do they actually have another gear?
Barcelona have been lucky, according to some.
Oh.
Courtois had a nightmare, they missed chances, they should have had a penalty, I'm not sure about that, but that's what some were saying. And I'm like, well, what, lucky every week? Lucky every week at the moment. You can't get lucky every week at the moment. So they deserve to go through. They are the team to beat, even though they're not the sparkling team on the eye. But they're the team to beat.
The rhetoric coming from Chelsea supporters was, at least we gave it a go. Look at United yesterday against Sevilla, and indeed comparisons made with Spurs' exit as well. Out of the 3 teams that have exited from the Premier League, Chelsea at least gave it more of a fight than the other 2. Are you buying what they're saying?
They want a clap. I mean, come on. You're the Premier League champions, and you think that just giving it a go is okay? I mean, come on. I think that tells you more about where Chelsea fans see their team and where they see Conte, because if I'm a Chelsea fan, this guy doesn't want to be there.
Yep.
You talk about they gave it a go. I didn't see anybody running around fighting for their life. There's a difference between turning up and trying and actually fighting and caring. I didn't see that from Chelsea.
What is exactly giving it a go? Because when they should have had a go would have been at home, where they had Barcelona at a very vulnerable moment, and they remained conservative. And they thought that the 1-0 was going to be okay. Then you make a mistake, Messi scores that away goal, and they knew, we knew, Barcelona knew, everybody knew at that point it was over. And then 2 minutes into this game, what's giving it a go? You give up a goal. And at that point, Barcelona is so very comfortable that, yeah, they allowed you the space. See, the game changes because of how early the goal was scored by Barcelona. And almost at a walking pace, Barcelona scores a second goal.
Yeah.
And at that point, yeah, fine, Chelsea, you can have the ball. Go ahead. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Let's see if you're good enough to break us down. And the truth is that, yeah, there might have been a couple of chances here and there, but overall, not good enough not to beat Barcelona. No,
The only team that should be kicking themselves at the moment from an English perspective is Spurs.
Sure.
United were abysmal. I mean, we couldn't have made that any clearer yesterday. Chelsea were never really going through, barring an unmitigated disaster from Barca. It didn't happen. And Spurs actually played well for nearly all of the 180 minutes. So they're the team that really should be kicking themselves.
What about Chelsea going forward now?
Well, they're going to change the manager.
The manager's gone.
Yes.
Yeah. With regards to the personnel, is it just a case of bringing in 2 or 3 new faces and then they're going to be back fighting for the Premier League? Or are they in real danger of becoming adrift from your Manchester Cities, from your big boys that they've been so desperate to beat?
Look, just reading between the lines from some of the respected journalists in England that maybe potentially the money's not going to be there anymore, where Abramovich, Mourinho was coming in and Ancelotti was coming in, whoever it was, and they were wiping the floor and outspending people. The spending power's moved up northwest to Manchester. And so maybe they're not in that ball game anymore. It's a concern for them.
Chelsea have to regain an identity as to who they are as a club and who they want as player personnel out on the field. Once you do that, then go get the players that you want. But until then, you have to figure out who you are.
What intrigues me is the future of Jose Mourinho, given that he's just been given a new contract. And I think when the new contract was given, I think everyone agreed that it was the right decision.
Well, I don't know about that.
Hold on a second. I don't think so. I think you'll find that what we talked about is exactly why I think they'll eventually go, and that's the way they play. It doesn't play what you associate with the way Manchester United should play the game. And so for that reason, that's why eventually he should go. But it's all down to how strong the board are. If the Man United board are as strong as the Arsenal board, then Man United fans better get ready for another, 3 seasons of this?
In the post-game interview or press conference that Jose Mourinho had, when he brought up about the fact that it was not the first time that he has sat there and Manchester United had lost, that he brought up Porto and Real Madrid and then mentioned Manchester United, that detachment from him and the reality of what just happened out on the field, almost disassociating himself from the disappointment, the failure, that's Manchester United failures. That's not me failing.
Yep.
That's Manchester United. Oh, wait, so I coach Manchester United. And then at that point, then you have to start asking questions. If you're a fan, if you're the board, if you're whoever, if you're a decision-maker Manchester United, it's like, this guy will stop at nowhere short of saying it's everybody else and it has nothing to do with me. I will continue to move on with my career and I will get another coaching position somewhere in a top-tier club because that's what I've achieved over the course of my coaching career, and you guys will do whatever you do. When you create that detachment and that space between you and the club, you're essentially saying, it's not about me.
They're already briefing. Not that they weren't probably briefing before the game, but it seems the briefing has ramped up to, you know, the journalists always find things out.
Yep.
Some reports after the bloodbath of yesterday already in the morning papers, along with those headlines. Buried in there a little bit was 7 or 8 could leave. And he's looking to get at least 4 in. The scapegoats have been lined up. And it's not the manager. It's 7 or 8, 6 or 7, whatever it is, may leave. Right? And he needs to get another 4 in, which is what we talked about yesterday. How much?
Yeah.
Convince the board, how much more does he need? And I think that's going to... I would be shocked if he was allowed to bring 3 or 4 big stars in, but who knows?
I'm intrigued, obviously, you're played, if you're in a situation like, if you're an Antoine Griezmann, for example, and you have Manchester United knocking at your door and you have other offers, how much does it play into your decision-making, the style of football that we see under Mourinho? You know what you're going to get. Would it put you off?
I think it would make you think. Whether it ultimately would put you off, I don't know. Look, United are a big draw. Huge. Absolutely huge draw. But there's no doubt that this particular coach at this juncture of his career, and he's not always been like it, there's been times, particularly early, he was much better.
Yeah.
Much better at dealing with everything. He's so ensconced now and fighting everybody and battling. But it certainly would make some of the top players, I think twice.
Choice, it's a bit choice, isn't it? If you're the top player, you've got a choice of Manchester United. Seemingly, yeah. Manchester United and Manchester City, you would think a top player would pick Manchester City, wouldn't you? So why did Sanchez pick Manchester United?
Well, because City didn't offer them the money that United were willing to.
So unless you're chasing money, it doesn't matter. It depends on what you are. If you're all about the dough, then regardless of how they play, who the manager is,
yeah.
who your teammates are, you don't care. I'll take the dough. If you're a real professional and a winner and a guy that wants to win the big titles, then if you've got a choice other than Man United, then that's what you take.
Ask a guy like Kaká, for example, whose career just unraveled. He was the best player in the world at one point and then went to play for Jose Mourinho and somehow disappeared. And to me, that's sort of what Jose Mourinho, in some ways, yes, he has won a lot of things, and you can't take that away, but then you can't also take away the fact that he seemed to stifle players and really hinder the growth of players. Ask Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
Romelu Lukaku. Now we'll think Lukaku is fantastic. He didn't want him to begin with.
Welcome into Extra Time. If you hear a loud rumbling sound during the segment, it's Stephen's stomach.
Well, a couple of dietitians sat on my left-hand side here.
Well, they're suggesting that your diet isn't built to last because you're starving yourself.
I've had some nonsense in my time.
Look, starving yourself is not a good diet.
Who said they were starving themselves?
You just said you're
I
starving
never said I was starving myself. All I said was I've had some soup today. How's that starving myself?
I'm very angry about this, Stephen.
It's almost, well, it's because it's almost 7 o'clock at night.
You know, how about some support?
Sympathy.
No, support.
Couldn't support you, you're too
We're
heavy.
not supporting you.
You know, hey, listen, the good news
thing
is
is-
I can handle it on my own, thank you very much.
Hey, we are
Thank
supporting you. I'm
The good
just
thing
concerned
is
about
with
it.
this
Well,
diet,
doesn't feel like it.
with this new diet you're on, the good thing is that you never talk about food.
No.
It's,
I find that very
He's past it. He's past it.
It's a very negative outlook to talk about food when you're on a diet.
He talks about food constantly.
I was chatting to Steve. I was like, "How's it going today?" And he goes, "Well, I've had a lot more dark thoughts than I had yesterday."
I was being a little sarcastic, Daniel.
Did Conte get it wrong by playing Giroud instead of playing a quick Morata who can run behind the defence?
Wow.
I'm not so sure it makes any difference who Conte plays now. I think he's on his way out. I'm not so sure everybody's listening to him or anybody's listening to him. And he doesn't look that bothered. Did you see him at the end of the game?
No.
He's just got knocked out of the Champions League. And he's all over Messi with his arms around him and all joking and laughing and smiling. What's that all about?
I don't know. All right.
Maybe he'd mentioned your diet.
Yeah. They were laughing about it.
Maybe he's on a diet. Maybe that's what's wrong with him. Yeah, he's concentrating too much on food.
Should he have played Morata?
Who mentioned food, by the way?
I don't think it would have made a difference.
No.
You just did.
Where does Courtois rank amongst the elite goalkeepers in the world?
It's
Nutmeg twice, wasn't it,
not a
today?
good day to ask that
Well, he's
question.
behind the United goalkeeper, and for starters for me.
Why can't you say David De Gea?
Because I prefer to paint it a different way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But how else are you going to paint it? Who else is
Well, I
there?
painted it as the United goalkeeper.
De Gea?
Yeah.
Who else?
You got your hand in there for?
Oh, because I'm doing a list. We've got De Gea at the top of the list.
But I don't know in what order, but I think Ter Stegen is a better goalkeeper than Courtois. Ederson is a better goalkeeper than Courtois. Alisson is a better goalkeeper than...
You love Alisson.
I love me some Alisson. Be his agent.
There we go then. Who should manage Chelsea and Manchester United next season?
We're running out of names, isn't it?
Well, can I throw Pochettino at United?
Yeah.
What was it? No.
Well, then I wouldn't.
Oh,
you already have.
So you would,
United, break the bank, get Pochettino and Kane.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would. If I'm a United fan, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Chelsea?
Don't know. Can't be goose heading.
Brendan Rodgers?
No. They're actually talking about him for Arsenal.
Brendan Rodgers?
Wow. I know. Well, pretty serious, I think. But from Chelsea's perspective, I think Diego Simeone.
Yeah.
See many other places they're going to go and get a coach.
In fact, I would love for Diego Simeone to go to Arsenal. Because if there was somebody who can change the mindset...
He's the anti-Wenger.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you're going to start over and you're going to clean house, this is the guy to do it.
With Simeone, I thought Abramovich though wanted this attacking style of play, which is kind of why they got rid of Mourinho a few years ago. So does Simeone give you that? I'm not so sure he does he?
But then he hired Mourinho back because he got fed up with other teams winning, and then he decided to go back to, I'll just try and get a winning manager, and then he got fed up with that.
Let's not forget that Luis Enriquez is somewhere hanging around.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is hanging around, by the way.
You're making a little concoction there.
Unai Emery.
Hey, see, you're back to food again.
You make some food there.
You're stirring the pot.
Yeah.
You're making soup or something.
But clearly it's not in your mind. It's
No.
not in your mind at all.
No.
You're over it. You're past
Well,
it.
you started it with my belly rumbling.
Well, I just wanted to warn people. Makes a
It's
big
reminding
noise.
me. You're bringing it up all the time.
Well, surely your belly rumbling every 2 seconds reminds you.
Fortunately, it doesn't affect me.
Well, everyone here's been to the gym recently. Everybody watching this show, apart from you.
Wow.
I was on a bike today.
How long did that
What,
last?
kid's bike?
Didn't last too as long as expected. But it's a start. Told you, me groins.
Oh, the groins. ESPN FC. Are you back tomorrow, Stevie?
Aye.
I don't want to talk
Probably
about
won't
Stevie's
recognise you.
drawings.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just trying to keep myself busy and then I'm
Looking
thinking
at
about
it, it's
food.
absolutely robbing of you.
6:30 Eastern. ESPN News.
Okay.
What do you say? What do you say?
I'll keep myself busy, don't think about food.
Toronto FC find themselves in the semi-finals of the CONCACAF Champions League after defeating who else but Tigres, Alejandro. I know some people were surprised at that. Of course, they went through on away goals on aggregate. So can they go all the way, Ale? Because Josie Altidore is feeling pumped, and he says that the best is yet to come from them. There's still a lot to come from them.
And he has a point. If you think about that, this is very early days in Major League Soccer, you assume that the team is actually going to improve in their level of play. What they were able to do against Tigres was impressive. At home in Toronto, they were dominant and they created opportunities. They did enough to get a win there. They allowed that away goal, but they still go into Tigres and they scored 2 away goals themselves. And you just have to say that this Toronto team has a certain mentality about them, and it doesn't matter where they're going to go in CONCACAF, they feel confident enough that they're going to get a result. They're going to continue to improve because as MLS season goes on, you will see this team getting in a better rhythm. The new players that have come onto the team will play a whole lot better. They will be much more a part of the team. And then you have Sebastián Jovinko, who in a free kick can define and decide everything for you. So yes, they're very much in the running. And if you didn't believe that, well, after Tigres, I think you might just become a believer now.
Now, we know that Toronto FC, at least for viewers as well, and the way how they've added to their team in the last couple of years, they've been part of a rejuvenation of MLS and seeing how teams really are, stocking their roster with some top players with intent to win these trophies. How big of a significance, or how significant would the CONCACAF Champions League title be for Toronto FC?
For Toronto FC, in particular, it would be a validation of their investment and their plan and their project, and the fact that this plan was put in place and you believed in it and you say, you know what, these are our goals. And when other people were saying that's unrealistic, well, we believed in the plan, and then we took the decisions to make it so. And we were consistent enough. We had continuity in our coaching staff for the first time in the history of this club, to be quite honest with you. We invested the money in players that we needed to. We made the big signings, and now those things are showing up on the field. You win MLS Cup, and certainly now you have a real chance of winning CONCACAF Champions League. There's still games to be played, and there's still things that need to be decided because they're in the tough side of the draw. But having said all that, they have an opportunity, and I think for Toronto this is very meaningful. For MLS, they will gravitate towards this and say, well, it shows that MLS is closer to Liga MX, we're closing the gap, all this other conversations. But I think this is more about Toronto FC and what they've been able to do.
All right, thanks so much, Alejandro Moreno. So Josie Altidore says that they'll get better every round. So does Ale, and we look forward to watching it. Well, Harry Kane has had his scan on his ankle, and it seems like he will be out at least until April. They said he will return to first-team training at Tottenham in April. So we know Spurs fans not the happiest today. Alejandro Moreno here with me on this one. Ale, how much of a blow is this one? Because we know it is Harry Kane. Some believe that they still can hang on without him at least until April. And who to step up?
Think about the last 10 days for Spurs. They were about to go through in Champions League. It was there for them, and then they didn't. And then, okay, well, fine, we got top four, all figured out, all sorted out. And then Harry Kane goes down. And so now all the questions come about. FA Cup will be affected by this. The fact that you may play Chelsea early on in April, and then Manchester City in mid-April. Who knows whether he's ready by then. So then you have to say, okay, how do you figure out getting results without Harry Kane? And so it's going to be a mixed bag of a little Heung-min Son here, a little Fernando Llorente there, a little Dele Alli over here.
Is he up to par, though, Llorente, do you think? Well, obviously, he's not Harry Kane, but enough to have them hang on.
Enough against certain teams, I believe, but not against top-tier competition. And so then, is it good enough against Chelsea when it may be a very desperate Chelsea team at that point, because they will be direct competition for Spurs for a top four position? So that's a big game. And then obviously Manchester City. How big of a game that may be? Well, it depends on how much of a cushion you have in that top four position. And so there are a lot of questions here for Spurs, and they all come up simply because Harry Kane is not there. And that's a huge hole. We cannot talk about Spurs without talking about Harry Kane. And every conversation about Spurs begins with Harry Kane and ends with Harry Kane. So if he's not available, then yes, Fernando Llorente may score a goal here and there. He was important for Swansea last season to keep him up, but he's not Harry Kane.
No, he
And Heung-min Son, he's not Harry Kane.
He's on fire, but he's not Harry Kane.
No, so good luck.
Oh, thanks so much to Ale Moreno. So Spurs have a Harry Kane-sized hole in the middle of their team there, but we'll see how they hang on without him, at least until he returns in April. How about them MLS clubs in the CONCACAF Champions League? Alejandro Moreno giving the Liga MX clubs a run for their money. So we know the fixtures, of course, that have happened. Great stuff for Toronto. We know Seattle in action too with a slight advantage tonight. So the question everyone is asking now, Ale, is the MLS finally closing the gap on the Liga MX?
Well, I think it has been happening for years now. And teams in MLS have been getting closer and closer. And so now when you think that New York is through and Toronto is through, and there's an opportunity for Seattle to be through as well onto the semifinals, then you really have to consider the growth of MLS. However, you also have to consider the fact that this is investment. Mm-hmm. This takes money. This takes an effort and a commitment by clubs to say, you know what, we are going to compete, not only domestically, but we're going to do so internationally. A lot of the times when MLS clubs were playing Mexican teams in the past, the biggest challenge for MLS teams was the fact that the lack of depth for MLS teams. And how do you adjust and play against a Mexican team that has options, not only in the starting 11, but they have options off the bench as well, and these guys that are well paid, well taken care of, that play in a league that is competitive day in and day out, and MLS is trying to match that. In order to do so, you have to be willing to invest. And Toronto is proof of that. Seattle is proof of that. And New York, on the other hand, is proof of that to some degree, but it's also proof of the fact that you can develop homegrown talent and feature those players, and those players can actually do a job for you on the field. They're doing it in different ways, but I think the growth of MLS continues to be shown across all competitions. But it's going to take, for all the critics that are out there and all the doubters that are out there, it's going to take one of these teams finally breaking through and winning CONCACAF Champions League to say, we're there. Well, we're getting closer.
No, exactly. Talking about the CONCACAF Champions League, because of course this question resurfaced based on the MLS clubs' performances recently in the Champions League against the Liga MX clubs. There's also the question that, do you think these MLS clubs are taking the CONCACAF Champions League a little more seriously than the Liga MX clubs, at least this year?
Well, no. I think what has happened is that Liga MX teams used to be able to play a secondary team or a second choice team early on in the competition and get through against MLS teams that, by the way, were at the start of preseason. And now you get to the point to where we can't do that anymore.
Game on.
And even playing our first team, we're having difficulties advancing. And so that gives you a sign that, yes, MLS is much closer to Liga MX. Not quite there yet, because we're talking about the upper tier of MLS that is able to compete with Liga MX teams. Some of the other teams perhaps are not at that level in MLS. But it is important that this team now, they make a statement. And they make a statement for themselves. And never mind the league. They make a statement for themselves. And I think a team like Toronto is exactly doing that. They're focusing on the fact that they set themselves a goal. We're going to try to win CONCACAF Champions League. People laughed at us, but that's the trophy we won. And we made it a priority. It's up to the Mexican teams if they want to make it a priority. We're making it a priority, and we're going to compete for it, and now they have a chance.
About time this has happened, if you ask me. Thanks so much to Ale Moreno. So it looks like game on between MLS clubs and Liga MX clubs, at least in the CONCACAF Champions League. The only thing harder than choosing the lotto numbers is predicting the Europa League fixtures. But at least we have some first leg scores out of the way, Ale, that can help us with this one. Let's start off with Lokomotiv Moscow against Atletico Madrid.
Not only am I picking Atletico Madrid to advance, I'm picking Atletico Madrid to win the competition.
I'm going to agree with you on this one as well, even though Lokomotiv are at home. And it's never an easy place to play. But hey, Atletico Bilbao against Marseille.
Why are you questioning yourself?
I just have to sound like I can't agree with you with everything. But I do, in that one at least.
Okay.
Marseille, away to Bilbao. Marseille with the advantage.
Yeah, and they were dominant. Athletic Bilbao, they looked very limited in terms of what they did in that first leg. I just don't think they threatened Marseille enough. Offensively, Marseille goes through.
Pains me to do this, but I'm going to have to agree with you yet again.
Why does it pain you? You sound like my wife. Why does it pain you to agree with me?
So that's a good or a bad thing. Hey, this is what I know. Arsenal, the mighty Arsenal, I must say, because Arsenal fans think I dislike them after our Sunday show, up against AC Milan. Can Milan find a way back, Ale?
No, that's a very solid no. They look disorganized. They look like a team that is trying to search for things. And as bad as Arsenal have been at times this year, I think they were excellent in that first leg. Perhaps their best game of the season. Arsenal goes on.
I think the ball is definitely in Arsenal's court, and it's not often that they feel that feeling. So I think that they're not going to let this one go. And I'm going to pick the Gunners to go through. Salzburg against Dortmund. This could be a juicy one. Quite close. 2-1.
2-1.
2-1.
Okay. This was the most surprising result of the first leg. The fact that Salzburg went into Dortmund and got the result that they did. 2 away goals. They're going home now. I want to stick with Red Bull Salzburg. I just don't like Borussia Dortmund defensively. And as good and as exciting as they are offensively, defensively, they're all over the place.
Do you know what, Ale?
What's that?
It pains me to do this.
Yeah?
But I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going with Dortmund for the mighty comeback.
How much does it really pain you?
I have to choose something to disagree with you. And I think this one, it's still kind of open. I'm kind of backing Dortmund on this one. So we'll see if they come up trumps. Olympique Lyon against CSK Moscow. Lyon have a 1-0 lead. That away goal. They're home this time. It's looking advantage Lyon.
Yeah. So it's right there in front of you. It's
I
obvious.
just gave the explanation.
Yeah,
Who needs an analyst?
I don't honestly. You know what? I could have gone to lunch.
You could have gone to lunch. I'm going to put it down too. There we go. Nunes, what can't you do? Plenty things. Thanks so much to Ale Moreno. We'll see if we got all of these right. And
hey, babe. Miss
see if
Moreno's out there.
Borussia Dortmund can give me the edge over Alejandro. Ale Moreno joining me for some more of everyone's favorite segment, Transfer Racer, because we love to see if there's any movements that we can expect. Ale, let's start off with Hector Bellerin to Juventus. A lot of people seem to think this makes sense. Because, I mean, why wouldn't you want to leave Arsenal now, right?
Okay. I'm pretty certain that we were having this discussion either last week or the week before where you were asking me if Hector Bellerin was going to Real Madrid. Well, that was a miss then, and this is also a miss, I believe. And it all really depends on what happens with Arsene Wenger and whoever comes in. And is he going to clean house, whoever that coach may be? Even if he cleans house, I don't think Hector Bellerin would be one of the ones that would go. So I believe this is a miss.
Okay, Jack Wilshere also of Arsenal. As you go with the, yeah, because why?
Okay, well, because if we're cleaning house, I start with
Get rid of him.
See, this sort of player is the epitome of why Arsenal struggles. Players that pretend to care and pretend to work extremely hard and pretend to be tough guys, but when it counts, when you really need them, not so much. So this kind of guy, gotta go.
That sounds like you're shipping a burden off to Everton. But, I mean, here we go with Jamie Vardy. He's definitely not a burden. Do you see him leaving Leicester for Everton?
Why would you, if you're Jamie Vardy? Are you upgrading? Is this an upgrade? No.
No. Big old miss.
Stay where you're loved, baby.
Because when you think Leicester City, you think Jamie Vardy. Anyways, moving on. Emre Can to Bayern Munich.
Didn't you ask me if he was going to Juventus last week?
They're linked with everybody.
He may just be a natural substitute for Arturo Vidal, who seems to have some issues with Jupp Heynckes in terms of philosophy, behavior, and professionalism, if you will. So it may just be domino pieces that fall. And if that's the case, then if Arturo Vidal goes, then Emre Can, why not?
Big old hit. And finally, Donnarumma. I feel like we've been talking about him in transfer raters for the past year or so. Still pretty young, still a top goalkeeper. Would Chelsea make a good home for him?
I don't think so. I think if you're going to leave Milan, you're going to go to the upper tier of the upper tier of the upper tier.
Ooh, how the mighty have fallen, Chelsea.
Am I saying something that is incorrect here? No. The way that Chelsea have performed and the issues that they seem to have internally, and you don't know what's going to happen with Antonio Conte and what the transition is going to be. So you don't even know who the next manager would be if Antonio Conte got fired. So if you're Donnarumma, if you're going to stay in a mess, stay in a mess that you're familiar with.
I like that. Stay in the mess you're familiar with. Right? Do that. All right. Thanks so much to Ale Moreno. We're going to stay in the mess that we're familiar with right here. And you can too here at ESPNFC.com.